This is why I love Made in Abyss, man. This is the kind of episode that really just reminds me why I fell in love with this series to begin with. Beyond the characters, beyond the overall narrative, what really gives this series its life and its soul is the world, man, the environment that we're exploring, and this episode might have had a better understanding of that than we've seen in many years. Hello everybody, I am Phenom Sage, and welcome back to another Made in Abyss Season 2 episode review. I realized that I didn't even say the actual title of this season in the last video, The Golden City of the Scorching Sun. And today we're going to be talking about Episode 2, Capital of the Unreturned. And like I was saying before, this episode was just absolutely fantastic, arguably even better than episode 1 in my opinion, and I expect a lot of people to disagree with me about that, because with episode 1, you obviously started very cinematic. You started with this very strong flashback sequence, the introduction to these new characters, and there's an intrigue to what's going on, everything is kind of unfolding. Whereas in this episode, it's generally just a lot of what I would call slice of life in this abyss. Almost the entire episode is just focused around the minutiae of exploring this layer, seeing its wildlife and history, trying to survive and rest in this place, cooking. We're back to cooking shenanigans now. Like, yeah, there's not a lot happening on a literal story level, and yet all of those things that I just mentioned are exactly what I think sets Made in Abyss apart. The fact that it is willing to spend all of this time just focusing on these smaller details and particulars about the world in a way that really just draws you in and engrosses you. It's almost hypnotic in a way, just listening to that Kevin Penkin soundtrack, listening to Riko observing things about the surroundings, or Nanachi explaining what certain things are, seeing the environments, the beautiful backgrounds and art direction. I guess the closest example I could compare it to is like watching a National Geographic special on the sixth layer of the Abyss. It's just super cool to get an episode like this far into the series, because when you think about it, it has been a while since we've kind of had the opportunity to just vibe and explore the surroundings and immerse ourselves in this environment. And since it's been so long since it's happened, this episode also reminded me just why I love this trio of characters and why it's so fun following them around. Last episode we did kind of get back to them. We did kind of get back to Riko, Reg, and Nanachi doing their usual shenanigans, but it's this episode that really lets you know we're back, man. We're back. Everyone has their usual dynamics. Nanachi is the smart one, Reg is the cautious one, Riko is the curious one. Lots of good moments with them this episode, lots of great comedy, like the stuff with the balloon or Reg being afraid to put his hand into the force field. Just great little touches that, again, just remind you how great these characters really are. And speaking of great, I've held off talking about this in this video as long as I possibly could, but I can't. I really can't go on any longer without mentioning it. The opening, man. The goddamn opening. It is absolutely incredible. Now, I like the first opening quite a bit in its own right. It is one of those things that took a little while to grow on me, but now, you know, I am pretty nostalgic for it now, and I do think it's a good opening in itself. But this opening, man, this Season 2 opening, it's just on another goddamn level as far as conveying the emotional weight and themes and storylines that we'll be exploring in this season. It's just so beautiful. All of the imagery that they pack in here, Riko and her white whistle, and the imagery of the other white whistles and her mother all faded together, Vueko and that outcast and their relationship just being really showcased in a heartfelt way, the imagery that we get that's doing exactly what I was talking about in last week's episode review with the parallel and mirror between Riko and Vueko, their groups and their journeys through the Abyss. It's all just so wonderful and so amazing. From what I've heard, apparently a Revue Starlight movie director is responsible for directing this opening and bringing it to life. Shout out to those guys for real, man. If you haven't seen the Revue Starlight movie, it is filled with some of the most breathtaking and beautiful direction that I've ever seen in anime, and I am so happy that they lend their talent to this opening and hopefully to other sequences that will appear in the anime later on. All of the packed imagery in this opening does make me wonder, again though, like I was mentioning last week, if they'll do what I was saying about sporadically including clips and sequences of the flashback mirrored to our own group and our own adventure. That would be a really cool way of continuing to tie those things together, but at the same time, it also seems like, unfortunately, they don't intend on showing much or any of the journey that Vueco's group took on the layers before the 6th one. So that kind of sucks. I would have liked to see more of that before we jump into the 6th layer and see how everything apparently went wrong, but it is what it is. At least we get some glimpses in this opening itself. But speaking of Vueco's group and the flashback, I just wanted to mention that my appreciation for how they've been handling that and how they've been integrating it into the story so far has only been growing after watching this episode, because in retrospect, and when you're thinking about it in this episode, it really does shape your expectations and knowledge of what you're seeing and what's to come in the rest of the story. They even intersperse narration from their group at 2 points in this episode, and for me, both times that it happened, it really gave me this foreboding feeling of what happened to them? Where are they? Where is this group? What's going to happen to our group? And that's a great thing as a storyteller to be able to make your audience feel just through the simple rearrangement of showing us that flashback before diving into anything else. By the end of the episode, we reach what apparently is called the Village of the Hollows, as we see from the next episode title card. This is arguably the weirdest location that we have seen in the Abyss so far. There really hasn't been any location where we've run into a large gathering of life in this series. And even though they're hollow, a lot of them look like they can't even really communicate with our group, it's still a really awesome and really creative direction to take the series overall. They nail the atmosphere, they nail the environment, they nail Majikaja, his voice just rules. It's very haunting and kind of scary to listen to, and even the CG, which I saw a lot of people were worried about beforehand, actually kind of works to sell the overall mechanical feeling of his body. I think they handled all of this really well, and again, going back to what I was saying about the atmosphere and the vibes in this episode, the nature of this place, the visuals and the environment, everything just sucks you in and sells you on the otherworldly nature of this location. And that kind of reminds me of a complaint that I heard last week about how the animation and the production this season isn't really that great. Did they downgrade it? Is it because of all the anime production delays that have been going on? Why does this season look worse? And frankly, I just have no idea what those people are talking about. Made in Abyss was never a crazy animation showcase, but what it did deliver on was its aesthetic, its backgrounds, its art direction. All of that stuff is what Made in Abyss excelled in, and from what I've seen in Season 2, it looks pretty much identical, so I have no idea where those kinds of comments came from, but I think those people probably need to rewatch Season 1. Overall, just another excellent episode in Season 2. If I had any kind of complaint about it, I would say that I'm kind of disappointed by how many repeated tracks we're getting from Season 1. I was hoping that Season 2's soundtrack would be a really big track list of new stuff that we haven't heard before, a lot like the Made in Abyss movie, but I also know that apparently there were recording issues for the soundtrack due to the pandemic, so maybe that's part of the issue there. I hope we start hearing a bit more new tracks relatively soon in the future. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode in the comments below, and if you want to talk about it with me further, I, along with a bunch of other fans, are in the Discord server in the description below, talking about it, discussing it every single week. I love you all. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you in the next video.